it's Natasha and thank you so much for joining me today. Well, I did a video a little while ago on paint swiping and it was so fun and so easy, so I thought I would do something similar except for using shapes. Now, spoiler alert, I am going to get myself in a bit of a pickle in this video, but we are going to bring it back and we are going to rescue the card, and I think it actually ends up looking pretty good, but I'll let you be the judge of that one. So I'm going to make a couple of cards today and I'm going to be using the paints that I have. I have been moving towards the Dina Wakley paints because I really like these. I really like dealing with them. I think they are the perfect thickness. I think they have lots of gorgeous color range. I love that the bottles are small, so there is a really good price point. I love everything about them. However, I do have some Kmart brand paints. I have a couple of random ones as well. Now I'm going to be using the Masking Magic to cut out my shapes today, and then I'm also going to be using the Honeybee stacked dies. I'm just going to use one of the heart dies to create one of my shapes today. Now I'm going to start off. I already cut out using one of those heart dies. I cut out some from the Masking Magic. Now I really like this Masking Magic because no matter how much water, ink, paint, anything, layers of anything I throw at it, it does not bleed. And so this is my number one priority when it comes to masking, because that's the point of masking. I don't want it to bleed through. So this is my go-to. It is magic paper. Now, I did cut a little bit off the bottom there because we don't want to waste it. I'm going to make sure that it is kind of just off the edge a little bit of my page. Now, I know that everything's a little bit hard to see at the moment. There's a whole lot of white going on, but this technique in general is so fun and so easy. So I chose some blues and some greens just to start off with, and all you have to do for this one is go ahead and put little dots all over your image. Now, the only thing that I can say, a little piece of advice that I would give you, is make sure your dots are pretty small. You do not need a whole lot of paint when you are doing this. And make sure the top of your image, or wherever you are going to start swiping from, make sure that you have that part well covered. The rest of it kind of gets the swipe downs from the paint, so that bit's fine, but make sure from the top you're going to go like right up against it. So you'll see that I actually put quite a lot of dots along the top edge of the heart, and that's just so that we get a nice solid edge and you can really tell the shape. Now I am going to speed this bit up a bit because obviously I'm just putting in dots, and again I really like the little applicator with these Dina Wakley paints as well, so I guess that's something that I'm leaning towards. They are a small bottle, they have a low price point, even better when they're on sale, which happens pretty regularly, so I have been shifting towards these and using these non-stop, and I've never run out of a bottle yet, so I think it's actually quite a bit of paint in there. Now, as I said, I'm making sure to cover that entire top of that shape. You can see the dots kind of follow the outline there. But other than this, I do have a whole nother video on this technique where I use these more so as backgrounds. This was a really fun experiment for me. I loved it so much that I thought, why not give some shapes a go? So there is no rhyme or reason as to how much paint you should put on. Each one of these dots is actually fairly small except for the dark blue one. That one is I think it's a distress one, and it's a little bit thinner paint, which makes it a little bit trickier. Now, I usually use a gift card or something like that, but I actually found that I had this scrapbook.com scraper, so I may as well use it because I found it in my stash. I had a whole lot of paint left over from my first scraping, and I thought, why not carry on and do some extra pieces, some extra backgrounds while I'm at it. As I said, if you're looking for more inspiration, I will try and remember to link the video down below, but if you just search paint swiping, then it will come up on my channel as well. As I said, this little bit of paint goes really fast, so I did my whole heart, then I have done these two extra background pieces, then I thought, why not just use my cleanup piece of paper and add some more color to that, and this paint just kept going and going and going. So there was almost a whole background again created on this one, so I always put these aside. If not, my children will soon be cutting into these and using these for their own card making. So here is the heart, and this is not completely dry at all, but I wasn't sure how the paint would go drying with the masking paper, so I wanted to take it off before it dried, just in case. I wasn't sure how that would work out. So I'm going to take it off when it's still wet, so I'm being a little bit careful, but it leaves a nice crisp edge, which I was really happy with, and again, really easy. You could go through and batch make a lot of these cards. Again, I choose to just let the paint dry on the mask, and then I can add the backing paper back onto it, and I can reuse that mask over and over again. Sometimes if it has a lot of excess paint, I will wipe a little bit off with a dry towel or something and then let it dry on there. Now this is the next one we're going to do, and this is the Woodlands dies from Sizzix. I believe these were released at least a year ago. I assume they are still on the market somewhere, but you can use any shapes. Now this shape here in particular, this is what it cuts out. So it does cut out those inner pieces too, which I absolutely love this tree. Just really basic for all good things, especially Christmas as well, but anything really at all. Now I need something to base my little scene off. It's not really a scene, but put my tree, to ground my tree. So of course I just cut myself a little wavy line, because that's pretty much what all the dies do anyway. And I'm just going to use a grey ink dauber that I found. This is the story of my life. Instead of getting out the inks, I would rather just use the finger daubers and the leftover ink on there. And then this is as simple as it gets for me. Now, I'm going to add in my tree, and I'm going to basically do the same thing that I did with the heart. I'm going to add in a couple of extra colors. I am kind of going for tree colors, I guess. So I do add in some greens in there, but pretty similar. So I do add a little bit of blue, and I also add a little bit of yellow just for something else as well. I am trying to get the tree lined up relatively straight, because I don't think I cut it perfectly straight on the masking paper. But I'm just going to whip through and put some little dots, trying to remember to get these around going right to the edges as well of the branches. So you'll see me kind of make sure I go out there too. This yellow paint here, again, this is a flip top lid one, and so it comes out a little bit faster, but I think I managed to get relatively small dots. If you don't think that you are comfortable getting the dots out like these Dina Wakley ones have, then you could just use a paintbrush or anything like that to pop the little dots on too, and I found that works well. Now, this worked out okay. We're okay at this point. I was okay. I did see a couple of white spots that were left, so I literally just put some paint there and swiped it with my finger, and because I didn't want to change the whole pattern of the paint, then I was able to remove the outside layer of the masking, and again, the tree looks fine for the minute. Now, I did decide I wanted to do some kind of background, and this is where I decided I wanted to get a little bit fancier than my heart. I decided I wanted to do a kind of nighttime background. I think that's probably what I had in my head. So what I chose to do is I need the mask, so the opposite of the bit that I used, the bit that I actually cut up and popped in the bin already. I fished it out, and I'm going to add a little bit of removable adhesive to the back of it, and then this will mask off my little hill or whatever it's meant to be down the bottom, so that I don't get my paint on there. Now, just like I showed you at the start, the inside of the tree is actually gets die cut out, but I put a little bit of mint tape there in the back so that it covered up all of those holes. I just cut this out of some copy paper to be a quick mask for me, added some removable adhesive on the back of it so it would just stick long enough that I could add in some paint. Now for my night sky, I decided to go very basic and not fancy at all. I am using some of the Dina Wakley color Night, which is a really dark blue, dark navy blue, and I love this color because it's not quite black. This is actually really nice for doing night skies and all sorts of things where you kind of want black or dark, really dark color, but not quite black. I added in a little bit of white. I also have a Sepia domed foam blender there that I used for some gold ink, and it didn't cross-contaminate it or anything. I was not going to be able to keep this one because I had accidentally let it dry as well. So I'm just using this, and I get a really nice textured sky background. Again, so far all of these steps could be done with ink if you wanted to. It doesn't have to be paint. It's really nice because acrylic paint is going to be permanent once it dries, obviously. Now, I wanted some sort of stars or splashes or something, and I have taken to using this Dina Wakley white gloss spray, and this one I love because it stays bright white, which I absolutely love, particularly when I am going to be spraying or splashing it onto something water reactive like Distress Oxides or normal Distress inks or Catherine Pooler inks or Simon Hurley inks, all of those which are water reactive. I'm always going to use the Dina Wakley ones. Now, this is when I took off the masks and I just don't love it. The tree perhaps doesn't stand out enough. I'm not sure. I just wasn't loving this at all. And at this point, I must admit that I was like, do I ditch this because I'm already this far in and I didn't want to? So we are going to rescue this. I am putting a layer of matte medium. This is basically the glue that I use to put in my glue bottles, but this is going to seal it completely for the next step, which I'm going to use to try and define that tree a little bit more. I can also see a little bit of a white border around it, which I wasn't anticipating and didn't love. So at this point, I mean, it's okay. It's okay. Not what I was thinking though. So we are going to work on this in a second. I do need to let the matte medium dry completely first to get ready for the next stage. This one here I'm going to keep really plain and simple. I love the heart, I love the dots, I love paint scraping, and honestly I could have kept going and done a whole lot more of these as well. I'm going to take a big brush marker. Any marker is going to work here, and this is instead of me doing an entire matting layer. Now, I think I showed you at the beginning, but didn't say, but this is on a card base already. So this is a 1-layer card at this point. So I am just all in. I don't have card fronts. I am going to use a little bit of mint tape, which is just a low tack tape from scrapbook.com, and I have just used that so that I can get my nice finishing lines around the outside there, just that kind of finishing touch. Now, as I said, this one is being kept super simple. I have the all occasion set from Paper Rose. This is a whole lot of brilliant sentiments which you can cut out. There are many different sentiments, but there are also many of the same, which I love, and that means that I don't end up with all the dud ones kind of at the end, which I won't use. They also come in black and white, so they're printed black on white backgrounds, but then also white print on black backgrounds, which is really handy too. So I'm just putting these straight down onto the card, gluing them straight down, because at the moment this card is going to be going through the mail, so I wanted to keep this one really flat. This one is actually going to be a baby card, so it says congratulations, it's a boy, and this one is going to a friend of mine. Now, once my matte medium is all completely dry, I'm taking a couple of big brush markers. Now, these are from Faber-Castell, and these are actually India ink. They're going to dry completely permanently, but the one thing that I love most about these pens is that once there is like a non-porous surface down, so that is the matte medium, I am able to use my finger and do a little bit of blending and smudging with these. So I'm going to use this dark green and then just gently pull it into the center of the tree a little bit. I used a lighter green to get rid of that white line around the white shadow that I had, the white little halo, but this dark green I think is defining the tree a little bit more. I like this better than all of the light colors I used for the paint. Now, whilst I have all of these out and whilst I am kind of doing this process, I decided to go around the outside as well. But if I'm going to do that, then I should probably make sure I trim down my cards first. I always start with a 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch card front. And that's just so that I can do this. I can pick and choose where I want my image to be centered. So I was able to do that. I cut this down to be 3 3/4 by 5 inches. Then I go around the outside and I'm going to smudge this in. Of course, you could do this with normal ink if you wanted to, the smudging around the outside, but doing the tree like I did would be a little bit more difficult just with normal ink. So this was just a really easy step, and I think that this brought the card a whole lot further. So I am always really interested to know what you think of my projects, I guess. Let me know what you think of the kind of before, where I wasn't sure about it and was preparing to toss it, or at least put it aside, and then the after of where we got to. Let me know in the comments section down below. As I said, I always find it really interesting what people's opinions are, because of course I'm just card making by myself and in my own little head, so it's just my own opinion. But anyhow, I'm going to add a Happy Holidays sentiment. This one is from the Winter Scenics stamp set by Hero Arts. I got this one thinking that I would be able to do lots of fun cards that I had in mind for this. So I really like the sentiments that go along with this one. They are bold and big and the perfect. I haven't got any Christmas stamp sets so far. I usually try not to invest in too many of them because I don't make too many Christmas cards anyway. But I usually allow myself to get one new stamp set, one new Christmas stamp set at least once a year, just so that I have something fresh to play with and something fresh for my mind to use as well whilst card making. Right, I'm going to pop this onto a card base, and then this one is pretty much finished too. So I hope you enjoyed this paint swiping in shapes card making video, as well as hopefully bringing this card back from the brink a little bit. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. As usual, I will have all the supplies listed down below too. I also have a couple of links if you would like to support my channel. I have my Buy Me a Coffee link down there, and also my snail mail address if you'd like to send me a card. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks, bye!